This is not going to be a traditional video, not even close to that. And before anything else, before I say another word, I don't even know what to say. I can't say like my heart goes out or, my thoughts or my feelings are with the families of those lost in this senseless tragedy. Because while that might be true, it just feels like I'm regurgitating the same thing that we see every time there's some sort of national tragedy. And today, I want to talk a little bit about the Astroworld incident, rapper Travis Scott, everything that went down there, but also the history that led us to this point that we probably should have seen coming. And I knew that I wanted to talk about this in some way, but I wasn't entirely sure how I could do that without it feeling like I was just trying to capitalize on the moment that it happened. So I waited a few days. I wanted more details to come out. I've been reading through some of the heartbreaking stories of people who were in the crowd, and I guess before we go any further, I guess I should just provide some details in case there's anybody out there watching that's still in the dark. Last Friday, a November night, the first night actually of Astroworld Festival, there was a crowd of about 50,000 people, raging, absolutely going wild for Travis Scott. This is something that he has a history with. If you've ever been to one of his shows or you've seen footage of them, then you probably recognize that Travis getting fans to disrespect security, break over barriers, whatever. This is not new behavior, this is just something that feels like it set a different tone in 2021 as he now tries to backpedal and say that, my hearts are with our hearts, mine and my super billionaire girlfriend, fiance, whatever, our hearts are with those that were lost in this senseless tragedy, but it's like you laid the groundwork to get us there. But anyways, over the years, there's been a lot of incidents that have definitely been captured live in 4K, and I will link to some of those down below. Everything from like spitting at fans and just, getting people to go wild and go crazy. It reminds me of like Limp Bizkit at like Woodstock 99, where everybody was just out of control. You couldn't control the crowd at all, but unlike that, where I don't believe anybody died, at least not in the crowd as a result of that, in this event that took place at Astroworld, people were dying of literally like having heart palpitations, having heart attacks, just shutting down because they were literally being crushed to death. It's like the walls in Star Wars, that one scene where they're like in that trash compactor thing and it's just closing in. It's like that, except this isn't a movie. This is people's living, waking nightmare, and I'm sure there's going to be so much trauma associated with it for people who were there. And I guess we should talk a little bit about the crowd, because I think that obviously it would be easy to just say, it's one person's fault, it's the organizers, it's the event, it's the people in the crowd, and it's a little bit of all of those things to me. It's a little bit of a blame game to just put it on one person, I feel like, because Travis Scott definitely deserving of a lot of that blame, like I would say, 50%, maybe even more, if we can boil it down to a number. But there were some attempts at him kind of controlling the crowd, or at least stopping the show a few times and saying, hey, let's get this guy some help, or I see a fan, incapacitated over here, let's try and get them up. But there were also countless other stories, just heartbreakers, posts just of kids, literal kids, teenagers, young adults, everybody that died. 8 people died in this event. 8 people, ranging from 14 to 27 years old. And it breaks my heart, because concerts are very, very special to me. And when people disrespect that sanctity and don't have any awareness of their other collective humanity, like the other people around them, I'm talking to both the performers on stage or the people that just cannot stop pushing because there's the hype culture behind it, and you've got to push towards the front because we got to rage and we got to go crazy. There's a problem. There's red flags all over that, littered all over the field. But it's not one person or one performer or even one audience that is responsible for what led us to this. And after kind of looking it back in my own mind and the shows that I've been to, I try to stay out of the craziest areas, because as somebody with back and neck problems, I cannot be a part of the craziest, most insane moshing or the crazier crowd surfing. It's just not something that I personally take part in. I enjoy seeing a crowd go crazy, but there's obviously limits to it. So, with a crowd pushing and surging forward with like a tidal wave like force, and the people up at the barricade in the front of the show literally just falling down in waves, it is insanely scary to think about. And if there's anyone watching this right now that was there or involved in some way, I'm so sorry that this happened. I'm so sorry that you had to go through this, because it's literally one of my biggest nightmares, to be in a situation where I feel like I cannot escape, like I don't have the control. I always try to put myself in a situation where I feel like if I needed to have an escape route or I needed to go early, whatever it might be, I can find that. But to have no emergency exit and no one listening to you, I'm talking like people, fans hopping on stage at Travis's concert saying to a cameraman, like, I am fucking dying, people out here are fucking dying, what are you gonna do? And basically being told to go screw off and get off the stage. It's something that's terrifying, because it again shows how all of these companies, everybody is just so trained to not give a fuck about the individual, but to think about the moment and setting the hype moment that everyone's going to buzz about on social media, or creating the event that's going to draw people in to subscribe, like Apple was hosting this event, for example. I'm not saying that Apple was encouraging violence or wanted this to happen, or that Travis Scott even wanted this to happen specifically. But there's literal lyrics that say, like, you know, I want people to get hurt in the pit or whatever. And some people like that. Some people like getting fucked up in the pit. But there's a difference between deciding to do that, deciding to enter the pit, and actually having the opportunity to exit said pit. This wasn't a pit. This was a wave. It was an inescapable event that transpired, and a tragedy at that. It's something that was absolutely preventable, and I think there's so many experts that talk about it a lot better than I do or ever could, because they see all of those red flags I was talking about. They're the ones that were just laid about saying, this event is going to go wrong, security is overwhelmed, there's so much here that you're not prepared for. I'm not saying it was on the level of Fyre Fest, but so many of these music festivals now, I don't know if it's just me, but so many of them just feel like they're slapped together, like last second, like, oh, yeah, I'm a bigger artist, so sure, I'm hosting a festival. And I know that Astroworld was in its third year, but look about Posty Fest, like Post Malone was doing that, right? It got canceled because of like, oh, you know, we just had some unforeseen circumstances. It was supposed to be its like second or third incarnation, but it didn't happen because, again, the preparation and the thought, I just don't know if it's really there, and that scares me, because obviously you have your big ones that are run relatively well from what I can see, despite outrageous prices. I'm talking like your Bonnaroo's, your Coachella, everything like that. And I've been to a decent amount of music festivals. I've been to Bonnaroo, I've been to Boston Calling, Sonic Temple, a few others like Warped Tour over the years, and I've never felt unsafe. Like, I've never felt like I am in this position that I can't get out of. Because while crowds absolutely do push, and that can be normal to a degree of people not respecting your surroundings or trying to push closer, I've never been in a situation where it feels like so many people are that desperate to be there and have that moment and capture it for their story or whatever it is. I don't know. Again, it feels like the blame is all over the place as far as where people could point the dial. And I don't think it's fair for any one concert attendee or any one person to take that. Really, at the core of it all, I have to blame the organizers and Travis himself, because he's the one person that has the microphone and the voice that could actually amplify help coming, ambulances, anything trying to cut through, instead of performing for like another 30, 45 minutes, however long it was. I mean, people are talking about there were distress calls that Friday night, starting as soon as like 9-10 p.m. That was like 10 minutes after he took the stage. And it took him until 10:10 to actually shut down the performance. So you could call it virtue signaling, like acting, saying like, oh, I stopped the show a few times, so legally I'm not liable. I have a hard time buying that. And I don't want to say too much, because all in all, I'm not really a fan all that much of Travis Scott's music. There's a lot of songs that I do like though, and I thought Astroworld was a pretty solid album. He's just not an artist that I really enjoy all that much personally, but I respect a lot of what he's done. Didn't like the new songs all that much. And I think it is one of those devastating situations where it just feels like you can't prove intent, obviously, and it's not going to bring these people back. What I am most concerned about is what happens next. What do we change from here to make sure that this never happens again? Because, like, I guess the foreboding title of one of his new songs would imply, escape plan, there wasn't one for like 50,000 people. And that is why so many people, I'm talking hundreds of people, ended up hospitalized. And, God, 8 people dead. I can't even fathom that. I really, like I said, I respect the holy grail of the concert experience so much, and I know that there's been insane ones in the past. I think to like the Rolling Stones at that raceway in like the late 60s, early 70s. I've seen the documentary on that. I've seen Travis Scott, at least part of his Netflix documentary, and just the whole culture surrounding that. And to that degree, I absolutely think that he is at least responsible for kind of cultivating this idea that this is cool, that we need to disrespect everybody that's here to actually put these barriers in place to keep us protected, to keep the artists, the other performers, everybody on the side stage, whatever. There's those rules for a reason. And when people go so far as to like basically train people into thinking that this is something that you just do, this is normal concert behavior, it's absolutely not. Not to mention that we're in a fucking pandemic still, hopefully tail end, but just having everybody so packed in there like sardines and just toppling over, it's like something out of a disaster movie, except it's actually real. And I can only say this, I'm glad that not even more people died, because it could have been even worse. 8 people is 8 way too many. But the fact that it could have been those hundreds that were hospitalized or airlifted, whatever, it could have been them as well. But I guess I'll just end this by saying that I really think that we need to have a harder look in the mirror when it comes to concert going, hype culture, and the way that artists respond to things on stage.